Before we get started, a few people have reached out to me on Instagram about my last video, about the fights, the wins and losses. These hands are undefeated, illegal, registered, whatever you want to call it, retired jersey hanging in the rafters. I'm just letting you know, we can squabble at any time. Just have to let you know. So don't ask me no more questions about that. Or you can come see these. I'm just saying. Now, welcome back to Dr. Curtis O's YouTube channel. If y'all like the content that I'm providing, please hit that like button, subscribe down below, and leave a comment or two, and I promise I'll get back to you. In this video here, we're going to talk about college, my 4 years at Baylor, why I chose Baylor, the plethora of problems I had while I was at Baylor, and then how that propelled me to get into medical school at Ross University, which will be in the next video. Now, obviously, I chose pre-med, but before I chose pre-med, in high school, I thought I was going to be an engineer. So the first 2.5 years, I thought that was my calling until I ran into geometry. And then I got an F, pre-cal, F. I said, okay, we'll have to switch this up. We're going to have to switch this up. So I ended up saying forget engineering because it was either engineering or it was pre-med. And after I ran into those math classes, or they ran through me, I went ahead and changed that up. And that was one of the very few reasons why I went to Baylor, amongst other things. As soon as my parents brought me to Baylor and dropped me off at my apartment, I was already partying. And I wasn't just partying, I was partying. I mean, the very first night, boom, partying. Next night, partying. Third night, party. You see this trend here? You see this trend that I started? I think a lot of it had to do with how my life was prior to college. Like I told y'all, my parents were very, very strict. So going out and all of that was not, they weren't having that. So when I actually got to Baylor, even though I partied a little bit in high school, it was like letting an animal out of a cage for the first time in like 10 years. I lost it. And on top of that, I carried that study mentality that I had in high school, where I thought I could study 15 minutes before exam, 30 minutes before exam, the day before exam, and do well. That was not the case. Started off with a bunch of science classes, because obviously I did pre-med. F, D, F, C. And you know what made things worse? I had 3 roommates. They were actually my teammates. That very first semester we was in college, guess what happened? Our apartment burned down. Our apartment burned down on top of the struggles that I had in the classroom. Professors had no sympathy. So guess what? 1.8 GPA. 1.8. Your boy was on academic probation. Now, you know I'm Nigerian. So when that semester ended and I saw that GPA of 1.8, boy, I was scared. I was scared because of that phone call. To the point where I didn't want to come home. I didn't want to come home for Christmas because I already knew what it was going to be about. That letter got to my parents' house and it said I was on academic probation. It was a problem. My dad called me screaming. And no lie, I'm sorry, Dad, if you're watching this, but no lie, when I heard my dad screaming, I put the phone down, man. I put the phone down. But I was scared to come home, man. Your boy was scared to come home because that 1.8 was a problem. So you can see I started off college the worst way possible. Apartment burning down. 1.8 GPA. Didn't have no system in place with regards to studying. So when it got to the spring semester, I was still struggling. I wasn't getting F's anymore, but I was getting C's and D's, repeating classes. But as I was going through that freshman year, I started to run into people that really impacted my life for the better. And I didn't even bring up not just the apartment burning down and the 1.8 GPA. I was still trying to juggle with that and football. But right before summer started, I had one of those epiphanies that if I didn't get my life together right now, I was going to drop out of school and go home and be a failure. So with the help of my family, the friends back home, and the friends that I made along the way, when I got into summer school, 4.0. 4.0. And these were science classes. So I felt that was a pivoting moment in my life where things got much better. Although I still had a few problems the rest of my 3 years at college. My sophomore year at Baylor, my priorities were so much better. My structure for studying was so much better. I still had to master my craft with regards to studying and juggling football, but I had a better handle of what I needed to do to get to where I needed to be. Now, I'm sure everybody's heard about football in college, or basketball in college, or any sport in college. You play sports in college, that is a full-time job and then some. That is a full-time job and overtime. There is no two ways about it. That's why you don't see a lot of student athletes in college going to pre-med, law, or anything like that, because that stuff is tough. But although it was tough, I felt like it gave me an advantage in certain things in life moving forwards. Although I love football, I loved hanging with my teammates, I loved the whole football atmosphere, the whole family atmosphere. After 3 years, I had to let it go because the spring training that we were doing in football was interfering with my MCAT studies, the Kaplans, the prep classes, and all of those things. But even after so many years of leaving football, I felt like I regretted a decision each and every day. Because in my head, I always had that what if plan. And a lot of my teammates actually played pro ball. But it was one of those things where I had to deal with, and I was okay with it because I felt like I had another calling. My calling wasn't football. It was actually become a doctor. So you can imagine, now that I left football, I could focus all my time on studying. So you would think, hey, he's gonna get a 4.0 each and every semester. That was not the case. Because why? I still had that same mentality I had in high school. And you already know what that was. Fighting. When I played football at Baylor, fighting. When I went to house parties, fighting. And some of y'all know what I'm talking about. And when I played Phi Beta Sigma, fighting. Why? Because we would fight other fraternities. Why? Because we were knuckleheads. So even though I felt like I was getting right here, my past kept trying to bring me down. Because I was always trying to squabble. I had a few other incidents in college, but we're not going to get into that. We're going to go ahead and let that ride. But if you played football with me at Baylor, if you was frat with me, you know what I'm talking about. We'll leave it at that. Now, obviously, junior year of college is where pre-med students start to focus on MCAT. Now, because of that first year of college that was extremely rough for me, you can already imagine that I did not have the foundation needed in order for me to tackle the MCAT. And I paid for it. I took Kaplan classes. I was reading the books, the videos, everything you could possibly think of. Now, when I sat for that very first MCAT board exam, I promise I thought I was reading Chinese because I didn't understand nothing that was on there. Now, you know what I thought for a split second when I was taking that exam? Putting God is with me next to my name. But obviously I knew that wasn't going to work. But that was how bad that test was the very first time I took it. And my score showed that. But we're not going to get into my score. We are not going to get into my score, I'm telling you. Now, the second time I took the MCAT, my parents actually helped to pay for a one-on-one tutor because I needed that. I had no foundation. I had no structure. I had none of that. Now, the second time I took it was way better than the first one, but it was not good enough to get into one of these U.S. medical schools. I applied, but I could not get into any of them. And at that point in time, I was like, I'm not doing grad school. I'm not doing anything like that, even though I felt like it would help me out. Thankfully for me, one of my closest friends was actually in medical school in the Caribbean, Ross, where I ended up going to school at. And after picking his brain and seeing what he was going through and all of that, that's when I made the decision to go ahead and apply there. So I applied there not knowing what to expect. I applied there thinking that, okay, I probably won't get into this one as well. So I was already thinking of a backup plan, which was going to be grad school. But I got that call from Ross University School of Medicine saying that I was accepted. And I promise you when I say I felt like I was the happiest man in the world. Because I honestly, it wasn't my grades. I didn't feel like it was my GPA either that I ended up graduating with a 3.2 with that got me into medical school. It was actually my personal letter. In that letter, I put in everything that I could possibly think of that I felt could help me from the time I was born to that point that could get me accepted into medical school. My main goal of that letter was to convince that school to give me a second chance. That's all I wanted. Because up to that point, I was a knucklehead. Whether it was in high school or whether it was in college, I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have. So I needed that letter to be so heartfelt. Because if you looked at my numbers and everything that I had done up until that point, I had no business being in medical school. And that's just the honest God truth. But I was thankful. I was thankful because I got my second chance. I was thankful because all the stupid stuff that I did in high school and college did not haunt me. So that was college in a nutshell. After I got my acceptance into medical school, shortly thereafter I graduated. Now before I end this video, I thought I'd share a story with y'all that I'm sure a lot of y'all probably gonna think is funny. And I've been waffling back and forth if I should share it, but I'm gonna go ahead and do so. Now I graduated college summer of 2008. My LB, my line brother, graduated spring of 2008. So at his graduation, one of my good friends tells me that Megan Good is at the graduation. Megan Good, the actor. Now, if you knew me really well in college, you knew that Megan Good was probably the finest thing walking to me back then. Now, when my good friend told me that she was at the graduation, I felt like it was destiny. I felt like at that moment in time, me and her were meant to be together. So what did I do? My friend gave me a sheet of paper and a pen, and in that letter, I poured my heart out in that letter, trying to give myself every chance possible to meet Megan Good and ride off in the sunset with her. After I wrote that letter, we actually came up with a plan to how to get it to her. Embarrassingly enough, we spied on her and we waited for her to go out towards the concession stands. When she got there, I timed it perfectly. I was able to hand that letter to her right before she actually walked into the bathroom. Your boy thought he was good. I put my email address in there. I put my physical address in there. I put my phone number in there. I put in everything possible so that she can contact me. Days went by. Weeks went by. Months went by. Nothing. Nothing. I was pissed. I was hurt. I was disappointed. Felt like I was depressed. But looking back at it, yeah, I was tripping. Your boy was tripping. So yeah, that was my short story that I thought I'd share with y'all at the end of this video. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. And if y'all did, please hit that like button, subscribe down below, or leave a question or comment, and I'll make sure I get back to y'all.